Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant John Solleder. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
There we are. So
wow,
we're here, the fourth episode of Leave Nothing to Chance, and it is my honor to interview one of my very close friends for almost 40 years. Wow. And we were children when we met, right, Arlene? Unfortunately not. We were in business and we met
long ago. It's so long ago, but it's like yesterday.
It is. It's been a remarkable journey, and you've had a remarkable journey. And, you know, of course, I've known you and watched your son grow up and become very, very successful in his own right. And I knew your mom and dad a little bit. I knew your brothers a little bit. You come from, you know, such a successful line of people. And I think our listeners might be interested, just, you know, some of the people that, you know, in your bloodline, some of the people you were related to. Let's start with your dad. I know what he did, of course, but why don't you share?
My father was practicing medicine, I think at 22 years of age. He actually skipped a year in medical school, and he did his residency at the Mayo Clinic where he met my mother. And my mother was a dietitian coming out of Canada. And the first day he met her, he said, "I'm going to marry this woman," on the first date. And he ended up marrying my mother, but she's Canadian, so I'm half Canuck. And a lot of cousins and relatives up there. But my father's father was someone I never got to meet. He was born, he died, he passed away on Christmas morning. I'm born Christmas morning. And he died 10 years before I was born. And he also was he was a teacher. He was a professor of organic chemistry at the University of Pittsburgh, wrote the medical textbook for Harvard and Yale. And he invented so many things today that if he worked not for a company, he would have been a trillionaire, not a billionaire. I'm serious. There are so many things with bank vaults. I remember when my mother went to Alcatraz with my father, and she turned to my father and she says, was this what it was like when you were here with your father? And the policeman turned around and said, "What are you talking about? Was your father in Alcatraz?" And it's because he created the canister that you put tear gas in. That's one of his inventions. He did a lot with the bank vaults, and he did a lot with why aluminum cans don't corrode inside, why garbage cans don't build mites. And inside the University of Pittsburgh is the Lowy room in Clapp Hall, which is the organic chemistry, because that's what he was, professor of organic chemistry. And in Clapp Hall, there's 15 on the wall is these all these inventions. It was all done by my brother, who's a photographer, and there was this big production, and I was there for the induction of the whole thing, and it was just overwhelming to not know this man and what he did. It was amazing. My father actually told me that he had him he wasn't my father's student. He says, "Don't tell anybody you're my son."
Amazing.
But my father was brilliant. I mean, just off the charts.
I always enjoyed talking to him. We'd sit on the back porch there when I would visit you in Pittsburgh, and we'd sit on the back porch and talk about philosophy and science and chemistry and religion and politics. And
very well versed. Yeah.
I certainly was. I certainly learned a lot chatting with him.
He would have been great as a networker, because he's the type of guy that walked down the block and he talked to every single person and he knew everybody.
Yep.
And he was a very unique person.
Sure was. And your son is doing well now. I know he's living in Los Angeles. I know you're watching your grandkids grow up long distance right now. I know that's certainly frustrating with the COVID and all that, but hopefully that'll be resolved soon. But how is he doing? I haven't talked to him lately, but I know he's doing well.
It's interesting because he's like multifaceted. He's such a business mogul type person, but he also decided to go to law school and get a law degree, which he did. And he's built the most amazing practice. And he didn't work for a company. He actually went into a boutique ready to build his entire business by himself. And in 2 to 3 years, he's working major multi-million-dollar cases, big cases. He's in major, he's just been inducted to the Supreme Court for the Sixth Circuit or something like that. He's doing major prosecution.
Wow.
He loves it. He loves it. But once again, he did his acting in Stella Adler Conservatory, and he went on to do movies, and he was in some films in Hollywood, and he decided he'd rather own the film. That's the business side. And he decided, well, you know, I'm going to be an attorney. And I said, now you're going back to college. Oh, here we go again for another 4 years of that. So he did that. And, you know, during the process of, even when he was in school, he didn't finish. I shouldn't tell this story. He didn't finish undergrad. I don't know if you know that. So when he went to a place and they said, you didn't finish undergrad. And he said, but look what I've done. He showed them the contracts he did in Hollywood. And the bottom line is they let him in. So he decided to go to this place. Now watch this one. And then when he died, he went and took homeschooling at Post University, went to a university and did 2 years of undergrad while he did his first year of law school. This is 39 credits he was doing. And then he was in competition for the moot court at the university with 350 people when he came in first place. So that's what we talk about today, about being a champion, mindset, which is what I love this. I love this Nothing to Chance book, okay? Because when I'm reading it, I'm reading my son. I'm reading my life and how I encouraged him to believe in himself and be that mindset of just going full throttle. As I said, he's my best student. He's my best student in 35 years. That's what I can say.
Well, and you have another family member who I didn't know that well. I met him a few times, but I'll never forget when I met your brother and he said, you live in Dallas. Do you know a guy named Mark Cuban? And I said, well, everybody does. He says, well, he owes me $20 because he was my college roommate. He borrowed $20. So I said, the next time I'm at a Dallas Mavericks game, I'll tap him on the shoulder and say, Eddie, right? Your brother Eddie, I think it was.
Yeah, and I said, Eddie, at this point, you better get some interest.
Yeah,
get some interest at this point.
Yeah, well, Mark's done pretty well. He could probably pay it. So let's talk about Nothing to Chance, Arlene. What's your, you know, there's 15 principles in there. What would be your favorite one?
Mindset. Okay. Mindset was my favorite. And that's something that I learned very, very early from my father. And that if I wanted something and I wanted to do something, there was only right way to get there. And that journey was to get to that level that I've only, you know, in my life, it's always been, if I'm going to do anything, I don't do anything half rear end. You know, I just don't. But a mindset you have to work on, and you have to read enough books that start challenging you to focus a certain way. Because when you're in this industry, you're dealing with all types of people. And I don't want to say this, but you're dealing with a lot of people that if you were hiring for a corporation, you would not hire them. But they all come from the same place. We all start the same place. We all have the ability to be anything we want to be. And it's believing in yourself. And it's having that, you know, you think about something. I said I'm a high-paid psychiatrist a lot of times. Because a lot of times when I'm working with people, I can hear this outer ear of this negative thought pattern that someone is saying, you can't, you can't, you can't. And I'm thinking like everything I did in my life, yes, you can, yes, you can, yes, you can. And my son, like very, very easily, I said to him, there's nothing you can't achieve in your life. There's some things that'll take you longer, but the destination is very interesting because you learn a lot from it. But just focus on the result and don't forget who you are. That's another thing. Because I love the fact that, you know, you talk about first place. I love this one. You said first place and no fork on the road. There's never been a fork in my road. When you first met me, you saw my abilities, was my mindset. You knew what I wanted to do, and there was nothing that was going to veer me off the road. And it's still that way today. No matter what I say, I'm consistently consistent in everything I do. ABC, ABC, do it the same way. That takes a lot of training. That takes a lot of strength. Because you know what happens? You have so many detours that come into your life and so many things that can offset you to go another range. And I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in, for example, if I have someone that has an interest in this business, I have to learn a lot about them before I'm going to even decide whether I want to develop them. Because I got to develop them with a lot of books. I got to get, my favorite books are the Kiyosaki books. I love him because Rich Dad, Poor Dad, learning about the 4 quadrants. Do I want to be a business owner? Do I want to be someone who wants to work for someone? That's a different mentality. Someone has to drive my car. Someone has to park my car. I'm not interested in parking my car. I'm interested in getting a car that parks my car parks itself. That's what I'm interested in. Okay. So, very early on, the first book I ever read was, I wrote this down because I want to remember exactly. Oh, Think and Grow Rich. That's the first book that I read with Napoleon Hill. I went, Think and Grow Rich. But rich meant to me is how many people's lives I could enrich to get to that journey. Because I'm more a giver than a taker. Mm-hmm. I get off in my life changing someone's life. When someone says to me, I have a goal, I map out that goal and I know exactly how I'm going to get there with that person. In my current business right now, I've created about 15, 16 millionaires. What's interesting, every one of them was quote unquote blue collar. Someone who made 30 or 40 or 50 or $60,000 a year income. Watch this one. Make it now that a month. They all make that a month. Clean houses for a living. People that took care of children, which is hard to do in homeschool and in the school. I mean, people that were hairdressers who just cut hair, didn't own a salon. They weren't business owners. They weren't people that made 6 figures. Sometimes those are harder people to develop this business, even though they have rolled up their sleeves and they know how hard they work to make 6 figures. Mm-hmm. A different mindset in this business because you're starting with all these different personalities and game plans. And it's being able to focus and have that mindset to teach them to read the right things, to encourage them to learn how to have that mindset. Mm-hmm. They talk about Tony Robbins, and I've always said, Tony Robbins studied people like you and I. And it's interesting. We seem to do everything the same way. Mm-hmm. There's a journey that people have that are tremendously talented. I'm not Phi Beta Kappa, by the way. Oh, I shouldn't even say this. I should say this. When I was in 4th grade, I couldn't read. I had to be trained to read, Johnny. I've never even told you this story. And when I went for my master's degree at the University of Miami, I did it in learning disabilities. And I was my teacher's favorite. I got a 4.0, but you know what I learned? I learned that I had a learning disabilities, and that was the problem of what I ever had. And so you either are auditory or a visual learner. And it's how you learn. It's how you train someone. And I don't know if you've ever known that. Mm-hmm. If you are a person who reads by books and that's the way you learn, or you're someone that listens to a presentation and absorbs more that way. It's 2 different learning styles. Mm-hmm. And so as a result, when I found out what my deficit was, I made it not a deficit. This is important. So when you're looking at people and I'm finding out what they're really good at, where my art form of this business is taking a team of people, taking the person who's great in social networking, taking the person who's really good in different areas and building a whole team where this person does this type of coring for the training. This one does this one does Excel spreadsheets. And then I look great. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things I can't do, but I don't zone in on that. I zone on what I'm good at, and I zone in what you're good at. And you build character out of people. So that mindset thing really, your whole book is really, it's interesting. I pick your book up so many times and I start reading before I go to sleep because that's the only way that I can go to sleep, believe it. And there's so many times I've read it over and over, the same chapter. Because with my learning disabilities, I have to concentrate and read multiple times to absorb the same information. But that's okay. I still get it. Nothing to chance. What can I say?
So early on, you were introduced to Think and Grow Rich. What were a couple other books that you read along the way that really
you want to know something? And look, this is really important. Where did I put it? I put it in the other room. I have all your books.
Okay.
And at the very, very beginning, look, people don't realize something. I came into the network marketing business by pure accident. Someone put a box in the middle of the table was Herbalife. I had no idea what the heck it was. And I went and said, if I like the product, then I can share it with people. If it works, I can share it because I'm not a con artist. If I believe in something, then I can formulate that. So that's how I was introduced to it. But a month later, that person actually left. And I went, oh my God, now how do you do the business? My sponsor left, so to speak. In the meantime, years and years later, you and I met. And I'm trying to figure out how we met. I think we met in a water filter company. Was it Clearbrook?
Clearbrook, yep. 1980 something.
Oh my God. And
87?
that company went down. And then you said to me, we're going to sell cookies. And I said, cookies? And you made me go to this company out of Canada and you taught me. Now, I don't remember a lot of things you tell me about myself because it's so long ago. This is the only thing I have to tell you that's different about the retention of things. But I will say one thing, that you honed in on me and you taught me more than anybody ever has taught me in this industry. So when you say, what did I read? Anything that you told me to read.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you told me to read, anything you told me to do, you taught me. And Tim Sales did a lot of stuff at the very beginning of learning the techniques of talking to people and calling people. And it's not recruiting people, it's building relationships with people, all these combinations. But it's like I said, think about a book that you might have told me to read. I'm trying to think because I've read so many. You made me read books.
I know. Well, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen was one that was kind of always a standard of mine. Right. Later on, as we got into later years, anything Jim Collins wrote, Built to Last, for example. There's so many great examples of companies that were really, really good versus the ones that were great.
Right.
And why? From a network marketing standpoint, there was never really a lot of network marketing books. It was more things like, how to win friends and influence people. Of course, kind of some of the standards that we were like, okay, let's at least refer to these things and read them because, we're trying to lead people. And we're trying to lead people, of course, we want to be able to give them as much information as we possibly can. One I think I probably shared with you early on was the first one I ever read, which was by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale about having a positive attitude.
Have a positive attitude.
Because that was such.
You have to draw my memory because I know you had me reading books like crazy, and I was reading and reading and reading. And by the way, I taught my son that. I remember when I gave him all Donald Trump's books. And I said, now watch the mindset of this man. Now, I'm not going to get into politics right now, but the bottom line was, here was a person who was very genuine, like caring, that he would sit down. If you talk to him, he would sit there and listen. I've seen him on interviews, but he also had this inner strength that he focused on what his principles of where he was going. And there was nothing. I mean, I've never seen anybody who can take a smack as hard as he can and not flinch or not show he's flinching. And that's one of the skills my son learned how to do because I gave him so many books. I mean, I'm just telling you, all these self-help books, all these things about focus, everything about mindset, everything about it. Oh, here's the other thing about your book. The other thing that drives me crazy, but it's so important. I've been brought up this way, integrity. And I'm going to tell you something. My father used to say something to me, and I shouldn't say it, but it's true. He says, you're not a Smith, you're a Lowy. Don't forget it. I mean, he did this to me all the time. He also did this other thing. I'm from Missouri, prove it. I'd come home with a $50,000 monthly paycheck, and he'd say, when are they going to take it away? So he had me in this driving thing that I got so aggravated one time that it was their anniversary. And I gave him a $5,000 check from Missouri Express coming in FedEx. And I said, and he had such a tough time taking it. And I said, Dad, just enjoy yourself and take my mother on vacation and leave me alone. That's a great story. But, your books, by the way, every book you've done, I don't know if you really realize what you're doing. There's such a succession of learning in each one of them. And what I love is that you have all these people that you have actually had relationships with one way or another, and you put them in this book and their stories. Their stories. People have to read this. You know why? Because they will realize that they belong in the book. They can get in the book. There's no achievement that anybody can't instill. You'll see people who will win an Olympic where they don't have one leg. You'll have someone like myself who can't visually see that well, but I still can drive down the street and I don't sit there and have some chauffeur take me because I'm going to get there. I'm just going to get there. So, we're not all fantastic at everything we do, but God gave you a talent and you need to hone in on it and make an imprint in your life, make something special in your life. So all the books that I've read in my life have given me the integrity to be who I am. I'm accountable for. I'm the best friend anybody ever had. And I'm also honest. And we need a lot more honesty in this lifetime right now that I'm not seeing. I give an example. These just little things. I got a bunch of product that came in the other day, and I noticed I didn't order those 4 things that are in the box. The average person would go, I'll just keep it. They'll never know about it. Because it was actually stuff that's weightless. I mean, it's just not that weight. And so what I do, I called the company and I said, I have 4 boxes that came in this. They said, really? They said, Arlene, I think you're one of the fewest people who ever call here and tell us you have extra product. Well, I said, well, I have to tell you one other thing. I bought a thing of toothpaste and I opened up the thing and I said, this doesn't weigh anything. And I noticed it's a tube that never got filled. So they said, well, we'll send you another tube. I said, no, I'm going to send this back to you with the other boxes. And I said, I want you to see what happened in production. But I would feel bad taking something I haven't earned or haven't paid for.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't steal. I can't steal people's lives, dreams, and make them believe something that's not going to happen if I don't see the effort. That's why when you sit there and you say, what do you do when you first bring someone in the business? You really have to sit down and listen. God gave you 2 ears for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You got to listen and you got to take notes. You're going to find out the journey that person wants. If they might be 40 years of age, 50 years of age, and they might be on a totally different playing field than a 20-year-old.
Well, right now we're at such a different time because of this COVID situation, where we've got 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds that, getting out of college in some cases maybe they didn't go to college, but they've got all of these skills and they're saying, what's the future? And then you got people even in our age group that, maybe they had a career, maybe they were in something and they did reasonably well at it. And now all of a sudden, because of this situation, their company is gone or their business is gone, or at the very least, they're downsized dramatically because they're not going to make the revenue that they once made, whether they're a business owner or an employee. And they're looking. So on that subject, Arlene, okay, whether it's a 25-year-old or a 60-year-old, how do you get them started? How do you get them off to a flying start? And what do you do to support them as long as they reach and, as long as they're reaching you and saying, okay, I'm doing everything. What do you do to really move them along?
Well, first of all, there's a double sword here that's going on. Our industry is actually exploding right now. And the reason it's exploding is everybody is home. You're not trying to find people because they've been at work all day and then they come home at 7:00 at night and they got to feed their family and they got to do their kids and everything else. Everybody is home. So your audience is much greater right now that you can find people. The second thing that's happened is you can't prejudge anybody's life right now. You can't look at them and say whether the person had a multi-million-dollar business, whatever their life was, it's very different. So what you need to do is open up the floodgates right now and allow everybody to evaluate your business, because people are looking for another stream of income, or they're looking for a major income. And so what do? It all depends on the person. If the person has been in a business for 20 or 30 years, I have to look at their mindset right now because they're very fragile. I mean, what is a 50-year-old going to do? Go back to college and get a degree right now? Our industry, people can afford. That's another thing. Our business is very affordable for people to come into. And those people that have been around for 40 or 50 years have a tremendous center of influence. And so what I do with people like that, very simply, is I sit down and I do a jogger. I do a jogger list of everybody they know. We start evaluating them and break them down into certain categories. And maybe like some people you want to just sell a product to, or someone you want to open the door. But basically, I'm really keeping everybody on the same playing field because I'm noticing how many people have lost their income and are just, they don't have any income coming in. And if they're waiting for stimulus checks, those aren't going to come.
Nope. Nope, they're not.
So I do a lot of analogy on something. I really do. I break it down.
It's an interesting way to do it, but let's talk about something a little bit different. You're very mindseted and focused. And of course, this is generic. The people seeing this are industry people and even non-industry people, for that matter, looking, and probably some of the people we're talking about that are taking a look and they're going to trip over this because it is syndicated across the world on a number of different networks. So people will be looking and saying, hey, network marketing, multi-level, they'll hear what we're talking about. Now, you happen to be in a company that I'm familiar with, and you have a lot of different products without getting into the company itself. But you've taken one specific product that you're known as the queen of marketing that product in your company.
Right.
Not only in your company, but in other companies, your name comes up and it's like, oh, that's the well, I guess I could say it, the Pycnogenol Queen. Okay. And you're known for that. But let's talk about that for a minute, because I think it's important. A lot of the people listening to this are in companies that have multiple SKUs of product. And, do I sell this or do I sell that? Why did you pick that particular product out of all the products that your company has, number one? And number two, how have you focused that in terms of your recruiting, as well as obviously your retail is a different subject. But as far as your recruiting, how have you used that product as the catalyst to build the massive organization that you've built over these last almost 30 years?
Okay, well, the first thing is that when I came into the company, they only had one product line. And then probably about 8 months later, this product came out, and I took a bottle and I tried it, and I couldn't believe how I felt. And very shortly after that, I went to my father, who's a Mayo Clinic physician, and you can't talk about nutrition. And I said, Dad, I really like this product. It makes it works like Motrin. It works like an anti-inflammatory. I'm seeing a differential. He said, well, go off the product. Went off the product. He made me do that 6 times. It drove me crazy because that's the kind of guy he was. I mean, he just wouldn't bend. Finally, I said to him, I'd like you to take some patients that have arthritis, asthma, and allergies, and I want you to sell every one of them 4 bottles, knowing in my head, because I'm great at marketing, that if they had the bottles, extra bottles on them, that their wife would say to them or husband, what are you taking? What are you taking? And if someone felt better, before you know it, the husband and wives would be on it. But more importantly, my father was a diagnostician. And he did a blood screen analysis before the person took the product. This is a really true story. And I said, Dad, take the blood screen 30 days later and let's see what it looks like. He couldn't believe it was night and day. Could not believe what it was doing to the cellular structure of the body, and why people were like the inflammatory end was just changing and everything else. And people were coming back for more beforehand. So at that point, I said, something, I got to write the retail system for the company. I got to educate the consumer on this product because I don't believe in selling anything. I remember years ago with you, we would have audio tapes and we would give someone on audio tape, say, listen to this, listen to this, listen to, before you know it, we'd sell the product. So I still believe that. But then I created the OPC system, which was oligomeric proanthocyanidins. That's what it is, Pycnogenol. And what I did was I created a survey system. I still use that today, 26 years later. Someone says to me, what do you do? I wrote the program for the #1 selling nutritional product in our company. What do you think they say? What is it? What do you think I say? Well, let's see if you know anything about it. Out comes my survey. Why? Because my father taught me, you can't see illness. You can't see what's wrong with people. You look at me, you don't know that I have vision issues because I don't even wear glasses. I'm not wearing contacts, but I have issues. Not until I tell you. You go into a doctor's office, what happens? They tell you to fill this out. They want to know. So I created a survey system that when I give it to someone, now we email it to people. We electronically do things. I can do webinars. I can do Zooms where I can have 20 people filling out the surveys. And we find out what's physically challenging to someone. Do they have arthritis? Do they have lupus? Do they have Crohn's? Do they have fibromyalgia? I'm not diagnosing anything, but I know how it works with autoimmune. And from that point, I give them the information and basically look at it and say, I circle the challenge and I say, you need to know and evaluate this product. And I give them a certain package with a video that shows medical issues and how this all works. And educating someone into the sell, making them decide they want to buy it themselves. And when they decide to buy something, by the way, they stay on the product. If they get results, they buy. At this stage, I sell cases and cases and cases of this product to families that have been on this product for 20 years. They won't go off of it. This product, I said, no matter what this company came out with, there would never be a product that would sell this much. We sell 4 million at wholesale a week of this one product.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
this whole line was isotonic. This is the pH balance of your body. It's the same thing as taking an IV. So the absorption is really, really high on an empty stomach. So people are getting the results because they're getting the product. You have products like that in your thing. You get great absorption. So the entire line expanded into vitamin C and E, and I mean, everything from bromelain, you name it, in isotonic. And we ended up with 14 divisions of products. So we actually are in multi-billion-dollar industries, products that you would want. But I'm still the OPC fanatic. I love OPC. That's what I sell the heck out of. And when people say to me, what do you do? I wrote the program for the #1 selling nutritional product in our company. They asked me what it is. I said, well, let me see how much you know about it. Why? Because I want to find out what's challenging to you.
Right.
And then watch with this thing. This is what you taught me. Then help them. I give them, I have a book on it that I give them, OPC. I educate them on the product that way. And I give them information that they study it, and then they understand why they're taking it, why they want to take it. And I probably retail every 3 months, $10,000 at retail.
At least.
Without walking out of my house and without calling a person. How do you like that one?
Yeah. Well, you know what? It goes back to that, what we're talking about, mindset and doing what you know how to sell that particular product. And you happen to love that product, and you happen to have personal results with that product, and you've had great results with people with that particular product. So what you've done is you've gone vertical. You've vertically integrated that one product over and over and over again in so many different categories for people that you've built a dynamic business that's going on now. It's 30 years you're with your company?
Well, 26 years, will be 27 this year. But you know what's great about it is the thing that people have to understand about this industry is you want preferred customers. You want customers. You know why? Customers become the best business owners because they end up sharing the products, using the products, and expanding their distribution of getting more people on the products. And products have to move to the end consumer by yourself taking it, and then a cross section of other people. I don't know about you, but I have found that I'm not as successful at just bringing someone in just because they want the business. They have to have an emotional tie to something that throws them in. I think I bring in more people that way that stay long term.
No, I agree with you. I think what's changed in multi-level is that there's a number of different product categories that are real today. It's not built by, you can't build a business anymore by hyperbole. There's too much information. I mean, somebody picks up their phone and Googles what you tell them, and you darn well better be telling the truth, because you can't lie to them. And not that people lied in prior times in network marketing, but let's face it, everything was anecdotal. Today, prove it. Go back to what your father said about Missouri, right? That old statement about I'm from Missouri, which means I think Harry Truman was the guy that created that, right? He was from Missouri. I think he was. Yeah, he was from Missouri. Was that whole thing about, hey, you better prove it. And if you prove it, okay, now you'll get my money at least once. And if it works, great, you'll get my money continuously. And you've been a role model for that, not only in your company, but in the industry. Let's talk about one other thing, Arlene. You were unique in the fact that you had worked for Sony Corporation way back. You were the first female sales rep, I believe. Was it just in Pittsburgh or the whole U.S.?
It was Pittsburgh and West Virginia, and that area. And what's interesting about that is I got my master's in teaching. I didn't last because I ended up working for Socially Maladjusted, and it just didn't work for me. So about a year after I finished teaching, I was supposed to get married. That's another story. And actually came back to Pittsburgh because I was actually in Miami. And when I came back, I met someone, and they were a sales rep. And from that time, I ended up with an interview with Sony in Pittsburgh. And that was the two-step market. I ended up doing extremely well. I was there 10 years. And I'll tell you the truth of the matter. I would get in my car and I would drive and I would go to areas that I can't even believe that I would ever go into. I mean, that it was just backwoods of everything. I was fearless. I don't know if I would do that today. But I have to say that when I left the job, they never were able to replace me, ever. There were three different guys that tried and tried and tried, and they said, what does this woman do that everybody wants her back? We cannot, and well, quote unquote, she was a Jewish mother. I made sure that all my dot my I's, cross my T's. I was dependable. I was there. I'd follow through. Any problems, I circumvented everything. That was integrity.
Well, you were ahead of your time though, because to be working for a major Japanese manufacturer like that in the time frame that you did it to, you were
Yeah,
kind of
it was all men. It was all men and me. Yeah, it was all men and me. There was no doubt about it. But every time we had a competition, well, I'd go to meetings and everybody's talking Japanese. It was really interesting. And then I would laugh because they knew exactly what I was saying, because I know in Japan, that's the first language they all learn is English, and they come over here and figure out everything that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was incredible. And when we had competitions, they said, don't compete with her. She competes so hard against herself. She'll win the television. She'll win whatever you're doing. Don't even play. And that's really what happened. I ended up winning every single thing. Every time there was a competition, they said, just give her the television or whatever. Because, seriously, if they asked me to do 1 million, I did 2 million. If they asked me to do 2 million, I did 3 million. I mean, everything to me was overachieving, always making it out. And I ended up being number one in a bunch of companies because of that, no matter what I did, even in network marketing. I mean, I met that woman, Sandy Chambers. My brother met her by an ad in Toronto. I talked to her. I started a relationship with her. And then I met you and everything else. And I mean, we built 10,000, 15,000 people in Canada. And I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And she's from Winnipeg, Manitoba, which, by the way, that was where my mother was from. Now, that's outrageous that she's from exactly my mother's hometown. And we built, my God, did we build? We built huge
numbers. It was amazing. But along those lines, I want our audience to realize something. See, people say, what do I look for when I recruit somebody? The first time that Arlene and I started to work together, and I knew her background with Sony, and she shared the numbers that she did. And I knew being, both a judoka, okay, which in Japanese, it's a term for somebody who plays judo. I knew the Japanese culture fairly well. I said, this woman was in a major, major, major men's company, male-dominated company. At that time, I'm sure it's probably changed today, but we're going way back. We're talking 1980s that Arlene and I met, and she was with them in the 70s. So I said, for this little girl, and Arlene's a small girl, okay, physically, this little girl to be able to go into that world, that male-dominated world, and to kick butt the way that she did, network marketing is going to be easy for her. She just has to figure out, how it works versus traditional sales, and she'll light it up. And here we are now, 2021 now, some almost 40 years later, Arlene, and you're still lighting it up, which is amazing. But that's one of the things that I looked at when we first met, and you were sharing that with me. Mm-hmm. I said, wow, if you can do that in that world, which I didn't understand the Sony culture, but I understood the Japanese culture. And I was like, if you could do that in that world, I knew you'd do very well. And by the way, that wasn't only the Japanese companies, that was the American companies at that point too, where not a lot of female sales reps, right? And so you've always been somebody who's broken that glass ceiling. You've done it in traditional sales with that company. You've done it in traditional sales with network marketing. So in wrapping this up, Art, what's your words of wisdom for somebody watching this? And let's just say that person is in network marketing and maybe they haven't put it all together yet the way that you have. They haven't quite figured out that they really want to dedicate themselves to the process of becoming successful. I'm talking Canadian process. They want to do what you do. They want to go out and they want to build a major organization. They want to have a great life. They want to travel. They want to go see the grandkids. They want to do all the great things that you get to do. What's your words to them?
Well, my word to them is, first of all, you have the ability to achieve anything you want in your life. You have to decide if you want it. That's the first thing. The second thing you have to realize, well, I'll be honest with you. When I think about how I really developed this business, think about this. I learned the first day, if you want to be good at something, find someone who already has tackled it. Find the person who already knows how to do it and let them start mentoring you into the system. So put yourself around the successful people in the unit. That's really important. You did that for me. If you think about it, you schooled me from the very, very beginning. I didn't have a teacher. I didn't have someone. And so when I'm working with people, I say, look, I have 35 years experience in this industry. I already know how to do this. I've been in this company that I'm in right now 26 years. You want to work with someone now that you're 50 years of age and you lost your business with someone who doesn't know where they're going, has no direction in this thing, or someone who's already walked the talk. So I'm just saying, for all those people out there that are looking for this, and the beauty of what you do in your own business is you go on these Zoom calls with 350, 450 people. Gravitate to people that are all on the same path, that are making success, and be around that positive reinforcement all day long. Keep that positive, because I'm going to tell you something. I don't have a negative outer ear. I don't hear any of that. I have a focus on, if I want to do something, there is nothing that can channel me out of that. And that's another thing you have to do. So if this is the decision that you want something, you want to learn how to do this business, put yourself in the arena with people around you that are successful already in the endeavor you choose.
Exactly.
That's what I would do, because that's your that's the shortcut. Do you understand that if you did not school me, there's no way in God's heck there was anybody that I was working with at that company that knew as much as you did.
Mm-hmm.
I would have lost years in this business. I don't care how successful I am mindset. There's techniques. There's things, the elementary things that you have. By the way, your first couple books that you wrote, the very, very first Moving Up, everyone should read.
Mm-hmm.
They should read all these books, because every one of them is a learning process, but there's a succession to it. And Nothing to Chance. Really, it was a perfect title for the book, by the way. Perfect title for the book.
Well, you met Grace and Fred.
Oh my God.
And that title came from a couple of their athletic woes, frankly, their disappointments, because you learn as much from disappointment as you do from success. And it really came from that, and me talking to them. Ironically, we got the Super Bowl coming up here shortly. People won't see this till after the Super Bowl, by the way. This will be a March interview, but the Super Bowl will be over, so we don't know who's going to win. But there's a guy playing for Tampa Bay, okay, that we both know. Matter of fact, his very first, this is funny, his very first pro game, when Drew Bledsoe got hurt, I was at your house, and I was watching the Patriots, and I think they must have been playing the Steelers. And anyway, I was sitting in your living room, remember, here's this young kid from Michigan, he's got a good arm, let's see if he lasts. Well, here we are, however many years later that is, and he lasted. But, you look at Tom Brady. The man is a master in preparation. You look at Winston Churchill. When Winston Churchill would write a speech, and he knew he had to prepare it, to give to the English people, especially during wartime, he would go over that speech an hour a time each word, to make sure that the word had the right inflection point. Well, whether you're Tom Brady and you're winning Super Bowls at 43, or playing in them at least, because we don't know what's going to happen, or you're Winston Churchill and you're leading a country through, a catastrophic war, it's preparation. So the Leave Nothing to Chance title came as a result of me telling my kids, look, you guys are doing good, but you have to prepare a little bit better, a little bit more intense, so that the coach or the judge, when they watch what you do, they go, oh, that kid's good. That kid's good. We want that kid. And so that's where the title came from. But it's I used it with them, but I've used it thousands of times in business over the last number of years, to really share with people. And, go back to our, relationship and friendship and business relationship over these 40 years. And it's kind of, what I was telling you in the beginning. It's like, you were a single mom.
Still single mom.
Yeah, still single mom. All of these skills, all this education, this great family that you come from. And it was like, okay, what weren't you doing to get where you wanted to be at that next level? And it was finding that thing to say, hey, what if you left nothing to chance and you did this and this and this? What if? And there you are. And here we are all these years later. And you've been a success and a blessing, not only to your own family, but to thousands and thousands of your distributors around the world. And here we are. So,
and I want to share one thing that you were just talking about, that you're talking about Tom Brady. And I want you to think about something, Johnny. Tom Brady goes and leaves the team that he's been with forever. And he goes to a whole new team. They've never won the Super Bowl. They've never won a division. Can you imagine this? Not only the skills he has, but you talk about the preparation skills we talk about. This is what I'm talking about. He went in there and he schooled all these people within this whole team. And he has these guys. I mean, he has it. These people respect him so much, and he's got this killer instinct in him, and he's challenged these people beyond any level they could have ever learned in their life. And you take Patrick Mahomes, Mahomie. I call him Mahomie. I love him. I'm in love with this kid. I think he's incredible. I mean, he can do every facet of the entire business. But the two of them are icons. They're in an element and they're in a level where they have this, their teams have this appreciation and this respect, and there's this command that is so unique and very unusual. I don't know that many people that could do what Tom Brady does, go to a complete new team, complete new people, and completely revamp them to be an all-star team.
And you know what? It comes back to one word. It's the word that is used over and over again in any organization that succeeds, and that's leadership. Tom Brady knows how to lead human beings. Yeah, he's a heck of a quarterback. He's still a great quarterback at 43 years old.
Well, his leadership skills, are way. Mahomie has only been in the business a certain amount of time. It's going to be real interesting. I have no idea. It's going to be one heck of a game, though.
Oh, it's going to be wild. But you look at that, whether it's Tom Brady, whether it's Winston Churchill, whether it's Ronald Reagan, whether it's, you go throughout history, be it in sports, be it in politics, be it in business. Anybody who leads an organization figures out that it starts with them. They got to lead themselves. If you can't lead yourself, you can't lead other people. And, lead themselves, and then lead a small group of people, and then a bigger group of people. And that's something that, you have done tremendously now for, 4 decades. So, I got nothing but respect for what you've done in your career, my friend.
Oh, I appreciate it. But remember one thing, my master's is in teaching. I was a facilitator. By the way, some of the best people to even pursue in this business are people that have organizational skills, who have patience. Teachers have organization and patience levels. They're fantastic in this industry.
Absolutely.
I look for them.
Absolutely.
Well, I had a great time today.
Well, we're going to wrap up here. And this is John Solleder with Arlene Lowy, the Pycnogenol Queen. It's funny, I got to title every one of these. With you, it's easy. It's like the Pycnogenol Queen. That one's easy. I don't have to figure out what to call it. And or the Queen of Pittsburgh. But this has been a lot of fun, Arlene. I appreciate you doing it, my friend. And for everybody else, okay, we've got another great guest coming up next episode. That'll be our friend, Dr. Tracy Jones from Tremendous Books. Tremendous lady, tremendous supporter of the network marketing industry, graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, and also the daughter of the legendary Charlie Tremendous Jones. So that's going to be another great interview. So, Arlene, thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Take care. And you look great. Skinny.
Get there. We're working at it.
Oh, no. You look like a whole different person to me. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solleder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.